Financial migration is a quiet movement that reshapes lives, cities, and entire regions without the drama of borders closing or flags changing. It is driven not by the search for safety from violence but by the search for stability, opportunity, and dignity through money, work, and the systems that govern them. People move their labor, their savings, and sometimes their whole families in response to shifting economic ground. This movement can be slow and deliberate or sudden and forced by crisis, yet it always reflects a deep connection between human hope and financial reality. At its core, financial migration begins with imbalance. Wages differ widely between regions, even when the cost of living is considered. A worker may earn in a month what another earns in a year for similar effort. These differences are shaped by history, education systems, access to capital, and the way markets are organized. When information about these differences spreads through families, social networks, and media, it creates a pull. The idea that effort might finally be rewarded elsewhere becomes powerful. For many, staying begins to feel like choosing stagnation. Financial migration is not only about higher pay, it is also about predictability. In some places, income arrives irregularly, contracts are informal, and inflation quietly erodes savings. In others, wages are paid on time, banks are trusted, and long-term planning feels possible. The ability to save, to insure against illness, and to imagine retirement matters deeply. Migration follows these invisible structures as much as it follows job advertisements. People migrate toward systems that allow their labor to become a future rather than just survival. Families often make these decisions together, even when only one person moves. A parent may leave children with relatives while working abroad, sending money home each month. These remittances can transform households. They pay for education, housing, and healthcare. Over time they can reshape local economies, increasing consumption and sometimes driving up prices. Entire towns can become dependent on income earned far away. This creates a strange dual existence where local life is funded by distant labor, and where emotional distance grows alongside financial support. The emotional cost of financial migration is real and lasting. Separation strains relationships. Children grow up with parents present mainly through phone calls and gifts. Marriages are tested by long absences and unequal burdens. Yet many accept this cost as temporary, a sacrifice for a better future. The promise of return is often what sustains people through years of work in unfamiliar places. Sometimes that return happens. Sometimes it keeps moving further away as new responsibilities emerge. Cities are major destinations for financial migrants, both within countries and across them. Rural to urban migration has been one of the strongest economic forces of the modern era. Cities concentrate jobs, education, and services. They also concentrate competition, high living costs, and social pressure. New arrivals often accept crowded housing and long commutes in exchange for access to income. Over time, neighborhoods form around shared origins, languages, and occupations. These communities provide support but can also trap people in limited economic niches. International financial migration adds layers of complexity. Language barriers, legal status, and discrimination shape the experience of migrants. Even when wages are higher, migrants may face insecure contracts and limited rights. Some are confined to sectors that rely on their vulnerability, such as agriculture, construction, or domestic work. Their labor becomes essential while their presence remains questioned. This tension is a defining feature of global financial migration, where economies depend on workers they hesitate to fully accept. Financial systems themselves encourage certain forms of migration. Countries that allow easy transfer of money attract workers who support families elsewhere. Banking access, low transfer fees, and stable currencies matter. A worker chooses not only where to earn but where earnings can safely be stored and sent. When financial infrastructure improves in one region, it can suddenly become a magnet for labor. When it collapses, people leave even if jobs still exist. Education plays a subtle but powerful role. Students migrate in search of degrees that promise higher income. This educational migration often turns into permanent settlement, especially when graduates find work where they studied. Countries that attract international students benefit from fresh talent, while countries of origin may experience a loss of skilled individuals. This process, sometimes called brain drain, is a form of financial migration driven by the expectation of better returns on education investment. Not all financial migration is voluntary. Economic crises can push people out of their homes with little warning. Currency collapse, mass unemployment, or sudden loss of savings can make daily life unmanageable. In such moments, migration becomes a survival strategy. People sell belongings, rely on distant contacts, and take risks they once avoided. These migrations are marked by urgency and uncertainty. Planning gives way to improvisation, and long-term goals shrink to immediate needs. Technology has changed the landscape of financial migration. Information about jobs and wages spreads quickly. Digital platforms connect workers to employers across borders. Remote work allows some to earn income from abroad without physically moving. This creates a new form of financial migration where money moves more than people. Yet this option remains limited to those with education, reliable internet, and skills in demand. For many, physical movement remains the only path. Financial migration also occurs within the realm of capital, not just labor. Investors move money across borders seeking higher returns or safer conditions. This movement can create jobs in some places and drain resources from others. When capital flows out of a region, opportunities shrink and people follow. When it flows in, wages may rise and migration reverses. Human movement often mirrors financial movement, each reinforcing the other. Governments respond to financial migration in varied ways. Some design policies to attract workers, offering visas tied to employment or investment. Others attempt to restrict movement through quotas and enforcement. These choices reflect domestic politics as much as economic needs. A society may rely on migrant labor while publicly opposing migration. This contradiction creates uncertainty for migrants and complicates integration. Integration is not only cultural but financial. Access to banking, credit, and property determines whether migrants can fully participate in their new environment. Without these tools, higher wages may not lead to stability. Informal saving and cash dependence increase risk. When migrants gain financial inclusion, they are more likely to invest locally, start businesses, and settle long-term. This benefits host societies but requires trust and policy effort. The return phase of financial migration is often overlooked. Many migrants plan to go back after reaching financial goals. When they do, they bring savings, skills, and new expectations. This can stimulate local development but also create tension. Returnees may feel out of place, while those who stayed may view them with mixed feelings. The money brought back can build homes and businesses, yet it can also widen inequality within communities. Generational effects are profound. Children of financial migrants grow up with stories of sacrifice and movement. Some inherit a desire to move, seeing mobility as normal. Others seek stability, rejecting the uncertainty their parents endured. Education choices, career paths, and identity are shaped by this legacy. Financial migration thus extends beyond one lifetime, influencing values and aspirations. Global inequality remains the underlying engine of financial migration. As long as opportunities are unevenly distributed, people will move toward places where effort yields more security. Attempts to stop migration without addressing these gaps often fail. Walls and restrictions may slow movement but rarely stop it. People adapt, finding new routes or new forms of mobility. There is also a moral dimension. Financial migration raises questions about fairness and responsibility. Should opportunity depend so heavily on place of birth? Should societies that benefit from migrant labor share more of the gains? These questions have no easy answers, but they shape debates and policies. The lived experience of migrants adds urgency to these discussions, grounding abstract economics in human stories. Environmental change is becoming an important factor in financial migration. As climate impacts agriculture, fishing, and tourism, livelihoods weaken. People move not only because income is low but because it is no longer reliable. This blends environmental and financial migration into a single process. Regions affected by drought or rising seas may see steady outflows, while others face new pressures to absorb arrivals. Despite challenges, financial migration has driven innovation and cultural exchange. Migrants bring skills, ideas, and resilience. Many start businesses, fill labor shortages, and connect markets. Their remittances support millions of households. Their presence reshapes food, art, and daily life in host communities. These contributions are often undervalued in public debate, yet they are woven into economic growth. The future of financial migration will be shaped by policy choices, technological change, and global cooperation. Reducing inequality through development, education, and fair trade can lessen forced migration. Expanding legal pathways can reduce exploitation. Improving financial systems can allow people to benefit more from mobility. None of these steps will end financial migration, nor should they. Movement in search of a better life is a constant in human history. Financial migration is ultimately about agency within constraint. People respond creatively to the limits they face, using movement as a tool. They weigh risk against hope, loss against possibility. Each decision is personal, yet together they form patterns that reshape economies and societies. Understanding financial migration requires listening to these individual choices while recognizing the larger forces at work. In the end, financial migration reflects a simple truth. People want their work to matter. They want effort to lead to security, dignity, and a sense of future. When those things are unavailable where they are, they look elsewhere. The paths they take are shaped by money, but the motivation is deeply human.